A video letter to Joan, page 4. The next event of a near-death experience is probably the most unusual one because of the way it occurred. I had met a girl in school. Actually, I'd met several people in school that were very receptive to I could be me. I could talk about I'm noticing spiritual things and speak about them, and I'm not treated like an outcast or freak. Very liberal minded individuals, troublemakers nonetheless, what you would consider the wrong crowd, drug users, pot smokers, basically, that clique. I had made friends with some of them, and I was speaking with one of the girls that rode the same buses and lived in the same neighborhood as I did, that a few of the things that had happened to me when I was younger. I wasn't forthcoming with everything, but just a few things that really piqued her interest. So she asked me one day, would I come meet a friend of hers who she referred to as Mickey the Wizard. So I really don't care at this point a lot about school. My mom is pretty much doing her own thing. My dad's gone, and we're raising ourselves. Us girls do the cooking and the cleaning. Mom made sure the bills were paid and there were food in the fridge, and we were pretty much on our own at that point. She's seen no further need for babysitters. Us two older girls, one would clean, one was in charge of the cooking, the cleaning, the other one was in charge of making sure the younger kids got dressed into school and fed. So it was basically just us, and I had no parental guidance now. And so I'm just doing my own thing, whatever comes along. I'm really interested in a lot of things this girl has to say, so I have no problem skipping school and going with her to Mickey the Wizard's house to smoke a joint. This sounds fascinating. Let's go. So off we go. We knock on the door, and she had apparently had a conversation with him before, and he was expecting us. This was not a spontaneous event. So he invites us in, and she's like, we'll smoke a joint with us. And he said, no problem. We both sat down opposite each other in the room, and he threw her a bag of pot. And while he's doing it, she said to him, why don't you read my friend's palm? Well, let me back up for a second. When we walk in the door, Mickey the Wizard come off as a full-blown wizard. Everything in the place was occultic. There were dragons and crystal balls and black light posters everywhere. Everything in the place had to do with the occult. Incense was burning. There were alchemy books all over the place. Just what you would consider, it's the only time in my life I've ever seen anything like this. This guy, even his appearance, is what you would think of when you would say wizard. But nonetheless, he agreed to read my palm, and he started approaching me from his side of the room, and I just laid out my right hand to him, and he looked at me and he said, no, I want to see the left hand. So at the very moment I'm curling up my left hand, on my right hand, I produce my left hand to him. And as he bends over to touch it and pull it to him to read it, he doesn't even touch it. His visual of my left hand, he immediately stood up straight, backed up a couple steps, lost complete eye contact with me, and would only look at her. From this point on, he would never make a look in my direction. And he said to her, get her out of my house now. Get out now and do not ever come back. The girl became very afraid. She set down the tray with the pot on it, said yes, yes. She began apologizing to him, and grabbed my hand, and out the door we went. We get about a half a block down, huffing and puffing. She's dragging me along, and I'm like, whoa, 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 what's going on here? What the hell just happened back there? And she said, I don't know. She said, I'll give him a couple of days to cool off and I'll go back and find out. So several days later, I ran into her and asked her, did you ever find out what is going on with Mickey the Wizard? And she said, yeah, the very next day she had gone back over to his house, knocked on the door, and got no answer. Had knocked on the neighbor's door, who was a friend of his, maybe he was next door there, and the neighbor had told him no, that Mickey had packed everything he had the night before and moved, and nobody knew where he was. I don't know if that was true or not, but that's what I was told. Well, she found this extremely fascinating and began to tell some of her other occultic friends about this event. So they became very interested in meeting me. I'm almost 11 now, and I'm a little mature physical-wise for my age. Because of things that had happened to me in my childhood, my mother found it necessary in her mind to put me on hormones. So even at this age, I have breasts. I'm developed more like a 15 or 16-year-old than I am an 11-year-old. So I come off a lot older than I actually was. And this girl was a couple of years older than I was. She was in the 9th grade. Anyway, she invites me to meet some other friend of hers, which no harm had come to us at Mickey the Wizard's, and I figured the worst that can happen is they'll run us off too. But I'm still very curious about what it is he thought he saw. Now, I mentioned to you in the previous video that when I had drowned, I was quite able to stick my hands out in front of me and identify them as mine, because I do have very unique marks on my hands, especially my left one on the palm. I'm not going to mention what it is because I'm not into this, and it's irrelevant to me. But nonetheless, it seemed very relevant to these people. So she invites me to meet this other group, and we skip another day of school, and they know we're coming. They are waiting on this meeting. These are mainly adults. So she takes me to this place. We knock on the door, and they escort us in. And immediately I'm introduced to everybody. It's hello, nice to meet you. We're glad to finally meet you. Could you please come stand right over here? They don't ask me any questions about anything. It's just a greeting and come stand in this spot. So I do. They asked me would I squat down. So I squatted down in a hunched position. There was a person in front of me and one behind me, grown men. They started saying a few things that I'm not going to repeat, and asked me to take a few breaths and to stand up slowly. So I'm taking these few small breaths and I'm standing up slowly, and as I reach full stature, the guy behind me grabs me and smothers me to death. Of course, my soul jumps out of my body, and I'm watching him lay it down on the ground. And I'm very confused about all of this. Why have they brought me there to kill me? Did this have something to do with Mickey the Wizard? This was all just crazy to me. I did not understand what was going on. But I was very thankful once again to be out of the body. I thought, well, this is it this time. I'm really going to get away from here. And I'm standing there observing them all circle in around the body, and they began saying things. I'm going to call it chants, and doing things to the body. And I'm watching this, very curious. Just, I'd never heard or seen anything like this. And I know that I have the ability to just go do what I want, ask any question I want, but I'm extremely curious about what they just done. So after a couple of minutes, they began resurrecting the body. They started doing a CPR type thing while some other people are chanting. They're throwing these herbs and this incense is burning, and they resurrect me. And I find that I was angry once again when I came back into the body. As it took its first breath, my soul jumped back into my body. And I was angry. My flesh was angry, and so was my spirit, because I wanted to know what it is they thought they were doing. How I felt very ambushed in the whole situation. I had no information, no forewarning, did not know it was coming. So they immediately, as I'm resurrected, how they like to call it, born again was their reference, they wanted to ask me questions about what I saw, this and that. And I'm not giving them the answers they want. They deceived me. I felt I was being used, and I refused to answer their questions. They were not aware. I had not revealed to this girl. I do not know what she told them, but I had not revealed to her everything. She knew that I had the ability to interact with spirits, and I had proved it to her. So she had conveyed this to them, and what they had done to me was what they called an initiation into their cult. I'm not liking this, don't want to be a part of it. No, I feel I have my empathic abilities are telling me there are dark spirits and shadows all over this place, just feeding off of what's going on in this room. And I'm not happy about it. I'm not going to answer their questions. And the minute that I found the chance, I made my exit, never to return. I would never have anything else to do with that girl, although her presence would make itself known in my life again very soon, and drastic changes. But as far as her being my friend or wanting to associate with these people, they were adults, and I knew they were going to try to exploit me for their own purposes. They did not ask me to do this to me. I was not invited. They called it being chosen. I called it being abducted. You don't do that to somebody against their will. I believe in free will. I don't believe one person has a right to control another person, that everything should be consensual. Had they asked me and told me what was going to go down, who knows? I might have responded different. I was very young and extremely naive, but I knew what I felt when I come out of that, and I knew this little ritual they were performing was drawing some very dark spirits into that room, into that area. And I wanted out, and I got out. So that's the second event. When I'd spoken to you previously in an email and told you that it's possible for all to know there is a God, there is life after death, this is the way it's done. I've already died once by drowning. I've died the second time by asphyxiation, by being smothered to death in a ritual, an initiation ritual. I'm not sure if all occults do it this way. I've read a lot of information later in life about initiations, and they imply that they're all mockery, that you don't really die. This is a fake death to be reborn again. I've heard this over and over in different alchemical translations, but what they done to me was absolutely the real thing. This was no mock initiation. They killed me. They snuffed me out and brought me back, calling it being born again. And no, this is not what I know as being born again. Bad word anyway. The absolute translation is born from above, not from below. And the next one, my next video is going to be about the same year. My appendix rupture, and I die in the hospital. And I'll elaborate that one more in the next video.